Hello everybody, I am Jared Ross, the Genie Vlogger, and welcome back to another Professional Genealogist Reacts. On today's video, I will be reacting to We Tried a DNA Test by BuzzfeedOz. Now, by BuzzfeedOz, I'm assuming that they mean Aussies, as in Australia. I imagine a large amount of European ancestry for most of them, but at the same time, if any of them have any sort of indigenous Australian ancestry, so I guess they'd be like Maori or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. I guess it wouldn't be surprising to find some of that in there. So I think a lot of companies would define that as Oceanian. I know in a lot of the GEDmatch calculators, that's how they define it. But that's all I'm going to say for now. But before we do jump into the video, please be sure to give it a like. That really does help me out. Also, be sure to subscribe and click that bell for notifications on future videos. With all that fun stuff said, let's go ahead and jump into the video.
Today we're going to be taking DNA tests.
And we're finding out where we came from, way up the family tree line. Just in case.
So I guess I'm going to have to change what I said before. I'm guessing there's going to be a lot more than just European. It seems like this person talking probably has some sort of South Asian or Southeast Asian ancestry. It seemed like one of the other people probably has a good amount of East Asian ancestry. So I guess we're going to have a decent mix. We'll have to see which test they actually test with.
In case we didn't already know. I mean, you never know, right? Sorry, I'm a bit unhinged today.
We are going to be using a MyHeritage DNA. I'm South Korean. My mum is South Korean. My dad is South Korean. They're both immigrants here. As far as I know, I'm South Korean. 100%.
I will actually be surprised if I'm 100% Indian. You know, you get the results, there's always like 1% of something else.
Love to know more about basically the things that make me me, because I don't actually look anything like my family. So there's been a lot of toes dipped into Afghan genealogy, and I'm sure that that's going to be reflected in my results.
My cultural background is white. The amount that I know about it is basically on my mum's side, I think we're Scottish. And on my dad's side, we're Welsh.
I honestly don't know what to expect at all, but we'll find out.
Find out.
Thank God Daniel's here today.
Yeah, thank God.
Are you ready to explore your ethnicity?
Absolutely.
Let's go.
Yeah.
You are 81.4% South Asian,
Stunning.
11.3% Irish, Scottish, and Welsh.
Oh,
Interesting.
That's wild. That's probably the most surprising thing to me. Didn't expect that.
3.2% Central Asian, 3.1% English,
Yep.
and 1% Mesoamerican and Andean.
Where is that? Oh my gosh.
Your DNA shows a clear origin in Punjab, India.
Yeah.
And your paternal grandmother was born in Punjab. You have a pretty good sense of who your family is, and so I think it's more about the...
Okay, well, they jumped real quick from that. The English that she was getting, actually, let's go back a little bit. So 11.3% Irish, Scottish, and Welsh, and then 3.1% English. I would probably lump those together. And then you're basically looking at a great-grandparent, more than likely, of full English ancestry. Or you could just say Northwestern European ancestry. This is a common theme on the channel for anyone who's watched a lot. Northwestern Europeans, often on these DNA tests, will get big mixes of Irish, Scottish, Welsh, English, as well as Scandinavian, French, and German. Really just a common theme throughout a lot of DNA tests. So with 11.3 plus 3.1, you're looking at 14.4, which is on the higher end of a great-grandparent. But basically, if she wanted to build her family tree and figure out where is this European ancestor, she'd want to build it out and try to find all of her great-grandparents. And if she was not able to find all of her great-grandparents, it's likely that one of the unknown great-grandparents would be where that European's coming from. So it may actually just be a matter of talking to her parents, and one of them goes, oh yeah, I had a grandparent who was said to be European or something like that. And then for that 1% Mesoamerican and Andean, it's hard to tell how true that is. It could be something where it's mostly a misread because she does have South Asian and Central Asian, and then there is this correlation between Asian and Native American or Indigenous American. But at the same time, I believe that that's more correlated towards East Asian. I'm not 100% sure on that. So it is possible that this Mesoamerican Andean might not be something realistic, but it is also possible that it could be true. And at 1%, you're looking at pretty far back there, you know, third, fourth, fifth great grandparent maybe even further. And then there's always a possibility that as she does trace out her family tree, maybe she does find that she has some ancestor that went from the Americas to Australia, and maybe that's even her European ancestor, and maybe that Mesoamerican Andean comes from some sort of long American ancestral line that moved to Australia for some reason. So a lot of possibilities, but very, very interesting.
You have a pretty good sense of who your family is, and so I think it's more about the details that
Yeah.
MyHeritage has helped uncover.
I want to be shocked. I want to shock me.
Okay, by that I'm assuming he means that they actually were able to build out a really extensive family tree for her, probably confirmed through genetic matches. So interested to see what he has to say of what stands out.
80.1% Irish, Scottish, and Welsh.
The Scottish and Welsh, like that's literally my mum's side and my dad's side.
9.9% Baltic.
Did not know that.
5.5%
That makes sense.
Scandinavian.
I'm Scandinavian.
Northwestern European mix.
And 4.5% Finnish. We have a record here.
Finnish is one of those ones that's a little finicky because from the studies that I've read, Finnish is one that's pretty easy to pick out compared to the other Scandinavian countries, which I'm sure me saying that, a lot of people are like, what? You're putting Finland as part of Scandinavia? Some people do that. With the whole Baltic jumping in there, that could be part of the whole Northwestern European thing, you know, Scandinavia, Northwestern Europe, Baltic kind of like the... not a bridge in between, but, you know, it's kind of in between. So makes sense that you might have population flows going back and forth throughout all of those areas and thus making it harder to decipher. So
Here, which we'll show you, which is from the 1881 England and Wales census.
I am really liking that they're showing records and not just like, yeah, your ancestry is kind of this. It's actually like names of people and stuff.
Your great-great-grandfather, John, so he was born in 1844 and died in 1907. He was a coal miner. There's also a stepson, William Jones. He was 16.
I feel like that would have been quite unusual back then.
Yeah, I think so too, yeah.
A step family.
And then here in the 1911 England-Wales census, we can see your great-grandparents, John Morgan, who's 30, and Esther, 26.
So that would be my dad's grandparents.
Correct. With their 5 children, they emigrated from Wales to New Zealand.
I always wondered when my family went to New Zealand.
We actually found a really nice photo of your paternal grandfather.
Wow.
Your great-great-grandmother, Esther. So that was Esther who moved from
Wales to New Zealand.
to New Zealand.
Even though it's not even that shocking, I still don't know
You're
what
still
to
surprised,
say.
yeah.
I don't know what to expect, but I'm expecting something random. But like, I don't know if I'm gonna be. I don't know. We'll fight. I don't know. I'm ready. Let's do it.
Let's go. You are 46.8% West Asian,
Okay.
24% South Asian,
Yes, to be expected. Oh, what the? 12% North and West European. Where? Amazing. See, okay, the Asian stuff, I get it, I understand, I feel it. Oh, and then just like, yeah. I thought that it was going to be more Central Asian because my family is actually from Herat, which borders on Iran. So it makes sense that that's kind of the area that it's picking up. My voice has never shaken in a video before. I don't know why. This is so overwhelming. I don't know what to do or say about it.
We'll go into the DNA matches. So your third match is only 0.3% in terms of the shared DNA that you have. So we have a little surprise for you.
Oh my God, stop. This is my distant cousin, my third or distant, what, how did you?
0.03%. So 1% shared DNA is usually, I think that's what, 70 centimorgans or so. So 0.03, that's a real distant match.
Hello Hamida, my name is Sapida, and you don't know me, but basically we have the same history. I've heard that you are born in Germany 1 year before my family and I immigrated because of the civil war in Afghanistan in 1995. You know, in Germany, the Afghan people always say we are related to each other. In our case, it's true. I'm looking forward to meet you and exchange some memories about our family members.
That's my cousin.
Yeah.
That's so weird. No.
It's a really distant cousin. My guess is that's her third top match because so few people that she's closely related to have tested through MyHeritage because many of them still live in Afghanistan. Basically likely that most of them are still living in those areas and they aren't really going to test because these tests aren't really available out there.
Knowing that you're from a place that was so war-torn and everyone kind of was separated all the time, you kind of give up on the idea of, you know, finding lost family members. I mean, I'm shaking.
You're shaking.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it's just going to say 100% Asian.
Well, Xander is 52.1% Japanese and Korean.
Interesting. I don't think I realized that my heritage lumped Japan and Japanese and Korean together.
25.9% Mongolian. 19.5% Chinese and Vietnamese. And 2.5% Finnish.
Finnish! Okay, this is what got me. Finnish? Even 2.5%. How does that work? How does that work? Geographically.
2.5% would be like the equivalent of a third great grandparent, maybe a second great grandparent if you inherited very little, or a fourth great grandparent if you inherited a bit more than typical. It's pretty far back there, and you have a lot of them. So if it's third great grandparents, there's 32. So that means of the 32 third great grandparents that you have, do you know all of them? Because third great grandparents, assuming that we're about the same age, that means that they'll be born early 1800s to mid 1800s. So the question would be, do you know all of your ancestors born in the mid and early 1800s? Because if not, that might be where it's coming from. And Finnish is pretty interesting. I wonder if that's a common thing that happens with people of mostly East Asian ancestry on MyHeritage, that, you know, they commonly get some sort of percentage of Finnish. This could be something that as the family tree is built, eventually a third great grandparent will be found that has this Finnish ancestry, or maybe a fourth great grandparent or whatever. Let's continue.
How does that work? I said if there was Caucasian, I would have questions. I have lots of questions right now.
And you've got 94 DNA matches on MyHeritage.
Wait, what? I have questions for all of my grandparents.
So your highest DNA match share 1.2% DNA. Monica.
Okay, 1.2%, that's going to be 70, or no, that's going to be like 80, 90 centimorgans, which is a decent match. That's 80, 90 centimorgans. It's usually, I think, around a third cousin, second cousin maybe, fourth cousin sort of thing. I'd have to look at one of the Centimorgan Project charts. It's hard to, you know, remember all of those all the time. Building out a family tree, you might be able to figure out how they're related.
From Norway. So let's hear from Monica.
Opprinnelig fra Seoul I Sør-Korea. Jeg ble adoptert hit til Norge, hvor jeg bor, da jeg var 2,5 år gammel. Så jeg kom hit til Norge, ikke noe kjennskap til min familie eller min slekt.
How do you feel?
Adopted in the 70s. So, like, from listening to this, one of my grandparents, all their siblings, had a kid, didn't tell the family, an adoption. Someone didn't tell the...
It's a third cousin, so it's not going to be like that. More than like, so if you really think about it, a third cousin, that means that you're sharing second great grandparents. So that means that your great grandparents' siblings are an ancestor to this cousin. So it's doubtful it's going to be like, you know, mom or grandma had some sort of secret child sometime before. It's more like great grandpa or great grandma had a sibling and they had a grandkid or something like that who then had a child who was adopted out.
A family that we have another cousin in here. Oh, I've been really waiting for this.
There's thousands of cousins. If you get out, I forgot what the numbers are exactly, but there's mathematical equations to figure out about how many cousins you have at each distance depending on your ancestral background. Once you get out to like third cousins and fourth cousins, for most people, you start talking about a lot of people, and definitely way more than you would probably know, especially considering the amount of people that are born out of wedlock and don't know their parentage for whatever reason. And every family probably has those people and they don't know about them.
When you see the spread of the colors across like everything, and I guess that's kind of the point, right, is that we're all sort of connected in some way. So like the prejudice and stuff that we have, it's kind of bullshit, right? Because we all kind of ended up
Exactly.
integrating throughout generations.
Yep. All right, a decent video. I guess, nothing super surprising considering this is a BuzzFeed thing. I am seeing BuzzFeed Australia. Oh, wait, no, that is BuzzfeedOz. Okay, I was worried for a bit when they were talking about New Zealand because I was like, wait, is Oz supposed to be New Zealand? Because I always thought those were, that was something very different. That was the Kiwis. So I don't know. I have a lot of cousins in Australia and in New Zealand, mostly in Christchurch in New Zealand. So hopefully, if any of them are watching, I'm not offending anyone. I think for each person, it wasn't super surprising, their results. Well, I guess when I say super surprising, the mixes and stuff. But for the person with Asian ancestry and the person with Middle Eastern, Afghanistan ancestry, they did have that European kind of hiding in there that was like, where's that coming from? Both with percentages that if they built out their family trees and were successfully able to build out far enough, they may actually be able to figure out where is that coming from within the family. And being that they have DNA tested, maybe they will be able to find matches that will tell that story. That last bit with the cousin adopted that went to Norway, that doesn't really explain why there's Finnish within the admixture. So hopefully they weren't using that as like this is why you have Finnish in your admixture, because you having a cousin adopted out to Norway isn't going to explain why you have Scandinavian or Finnish or anything like that in your ancestry. It's going to be something else. It's either an error or you have that ancestry hiding somewhere, which, based on that percentage, probably third great grandparent, maybe fourth, maybe further, maybe a second, but, far out there. Now, it certainly would be interesting to see the person with Asian ancestry take one of the Asian-based DNA tests, which I've discussed in a lot of these videos. And if you'd like to watch one of those videos where I discuss these Asian-based DNA tests, be sure to check out that right here. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. That really does help me out. You can also click right about here if you'd like to subscribe. It's completely free to do so. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @GenieVlogger. I'm the Genie Vlogger. See you in my next video.